Well, good morning and welcome to today's tour at 10. Today, we're filming this tour from the Bennington Battle exhibition. And of course, as you all know, Bennington is famous for the Battle of Bennington, even though it actually didn't happen here in Bennington. But it was about the battle, or the battle was about Bennington. But it's a great story that a lot of us here in our community take great pride in. We also take great pride in the Bennington Battle Monument, which we featured on earlier tours at 10. Now, during this time of closure and pandemic, we've tried to make best use of the time as we can. We, of course, have been working from home, engaging in planning and staying in touch and working on grant funds. We also were able to actually hire a photographer. When we were allowed to get back in the building, we were then able to hire a photographer to help us, while we had no visitors, take advantage of that time and photograph as many objects in the collection that we could, using the galleries as the photo labs. And so we've been hard at work photographing many objects. And today, Jamie Franklin, our curator, is going to show us some of the things that have recently been photographed from the Battle Gallery.
Good morning. So as Josh said, we're here in the Battle Gallery, and today our photographer, Georges Bouret, has been working on objects from our cases here. And I have before you a cart filled with objects that all are the types of material artifacts that would have been used by soldiers who participated in the Battle of Bennington. I know Dina has done a wonderful video, which you can find in our social media and YouTube page, documenting how soldiers in the Battle of Bennington would have used a musket, which was a big, long, complicated endeavor. And a lot of these objects go into the kind of things that a soldier would have had to do. So we have everything from a single ball musket mold. So you would have used this to, you would have had to melt lead and then poured the molten lead into the mold to create a single musket ball. Sometimes they would have had room for 4 in the case of this, and these are actually different diameter balls. So a lot of times the soldiers would come with their own weapons. They weren't necessarily issued by the federal government, which didn't exist at the time. And so they had to be prepared to make different diameter musket balls. This is a 12-ball mold. All of these from the period of the late 18th century, mid-18th century, when the Revolutionary War was occurring. You would have then had to have something to store your powder in. So these are powder horns, and this is actually a powder horn that was used by somebody who participated in the Battle of Bennington. So this one is inscribed Peleg Madison, his horn, made by him at Shaftesbury, 1776. In Captain Galusha's company, Colonel Herrick's regiment. And of course, Galusha and Herrick were both prominent officers who were in charge of troops at the Battle of Bennington. Another wonderful horn used by Matthew Brown, created in 1775, a couple of years before the Battle of Bennington. This is a very large one, and it's engraved with a beautiful image of a buck, a deer with antlers. So this may have been his hunting horn, which he then started using when he was enlisted as a soldier during the Revolutionary War. Then here we have cartridge pouches. So you have your powder that you need to keep dry. You have your molds that you can make your musket balls with. But once you make a cartridge, so they would load their powder into little paper cartridges, which they would then store in a pouch like this. I particularly love this one. It's very, very difficult to see, but it's actually impressed with designs and actually an inscription that reads, Timothy Jones, death to Gage and to all Tories. And of course, Gage was one of the British officers during the Revolutionary, and Tories were, of course, people who lived in the colonies but were fighting on the side of the British, sometimes against their own neighbors. And again, I'm not a military historian by any stretch of the imagination, but I always love the incredible depths of our collections. We have all of these objects that help us tell the story, the lived experience of the Battle of Bennington. Not just the rote facts that you can learn, but actually physically experience and view the objects that would have been actually used literally in the Battle of Bennington, or the types of objects that would have been used by the soldiers who participated. So we're going through photographing these items, and now I'm just going to be putting them back in the case as soon as we're done with this filming. So
Well, thank you so much, Jamie, for joining me on today's Tour at 10 and telling us about those really great objects from the Battle of Bennington, and a little bit about, of course, the Revolutionary War history. That's what's so amazing about the Bennington Museum. An art museum, a history museum, incredible history here, and history that is relevant not just because of its relevance to the local scene, but in this case, to the national scene. And what's so amazing about our Battle of Bennington material, the battle was a very important battle in the history of the American Revolution, no doubt, but what makes our collection really important and so fascinating from a historical perspective is that it's probably this Battle of Bennington is, and all those collections here at the Bennington Museum make it one of the most and best documented battles in the Revolutionary War, and it's all right here at the museum, and then you can go 10 miles away and actually go to the battle site. It's really quite astounding. So thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you all out there in social media for joining us on today's Tour at 10. This project of photographing our collections is an effort to demonstrate not only a project that we wanted to get done, but we also hope shows that we're committed to keeping our institution alive for you to enjoy and to be able to keep visiting once we're post-pandemic. You can help us with that endeavor by making a donation. You can go right to our website, benningtonmuseum.org, and make a donation that will help us not only survive, but thrive when we're ready to reopen. And we can't wait to reopen, and until that time, we remind you to stay strong, stay safe, and stay creative. We'll see you next time at Tours at 10.